I watched the Casey Anthony documentary so that you don't have to. Episode 2. All right, y'all, buckle up. It's a ride today. Yes, I look like shit. Yes, I'm aware that that's what my hair looks like. See the previous couple videos. I was in a sewage ditch today, so I need to take a shower. All right, Casey Anthony documentary, episode 2. This one is called Remembrance, I think. Remembering, sorry. Yeah, so this episode actually covered a lot of ground as far as what happened. So towards the beginning, we have Casey having a mental breakdown because she knows she's going to have to talk about the events of that day and everything, which, I mean, I don't know why you're stressed out about it. You've had literally a decade to get your story straight. Casey claims that on the day that Kaylee went missing, sorry, I'm trying to hold my phone with one hand, and I'm sorry it's shaking. We're unprofessional around here. Casey claims that the last day that she saw her daughter, she was not feeling well, so she went into her room and laid down to take a nap. And she took Kaylee into her room with her, turned on the TV, said that she normally locked the door, but she couldn't be sure if she locked it that day or not. I had to change my hair. I couldn't look at that shit anymore. So Casey claims that she is awoken from this nap, being shaken by her father, telling her to get up. Where's Kaylee? She looks around, says the TV's still on. Her and her father start looking through the house for Kaylee. They go outside. She says she goes around the left side of the house. And as she comes around, she sees her dad standing in the yard holding Kaylee's limp, soaking wet body. Now, Casey claims that she still thought Kaylee was alive. She said that she sat on the ground and held Kaylee's body and that she was cold and soaking wet, but her dad got down and in her ear changed to that soft tone and said, "It's all going to be okay. I'm going to take care of it." So apparently she goes on thinking that Casey goes on thinking that Kaylee is fine, that her dad is going to make her better. She blames it on being naive. And honey, that's not being naive. That's being delusional. So, over the course of the next 31 days, she claims that her dad kept telling her that they would be reunited soon, that she'd get to see Kaylee soon, she'd get to talk to Kaylee soon. Made it sound like Kaylee was somewhere getting better, I guess. Which, of all the stories to be telling, like, this is so far-fetched, it's not even funny. And it continues like that, even when she's in jail. She still believes that her father is keeping Kaylee somewhere safe and that she will get to see Kaylee again up to the day that they find her remains. Head to part 2. All right, we are finally back for part 2 of the Casey Anthony documentary, episode 2. Sorry there was such a big gap. I filmed one and then I couldn't figure out where it went. I thought it didn't post, so I was going to give it a break until tomorrow. But then I found out it just posted on private. So I was in the shower and we're just going to do it now. You know, we're just over here looking like a 10. So we're going to go a little bit out of order as far as the episode goes, because it kind of jumped a little bit. So we left off talking about what happened to Kaylee that day. So following Kaylee's alleged death and her father allegedly, well, I guess it's not an alleged death. I mean, she did die. But following the alleged story that Casey told, and according to her, her father had Kaylee, she left and went to her boyfriend's house. Now, I don't know if her boyfriend lived with roommates or if his friends were just there a lot, but she stayed with him the entirety of that 31 days. Her boyfriend, I forget what his name is, he was a club promoter or a DJ or something, so she's going to work with him. She claims that all those pictures that we saw of her going out, living it up, she was like, "You never saw me with a drink in my hand. I was working. I was helping him promote. I was helping him do this, blah, 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 blah." I mean, you can spin it however you want, sweetheart. You were still in a club while your daughter is either dead or missing. Like, I get it, people grieve different ways, but, like, nobody knew she was dead in theory but you and your dad. Also, if your daughter was gone for 31 days, at what point is your mom going to start asking questions? Like, I don't believe the mother was involved, but, like, at what point is she like, "Hey, where the hell's this kid at?" I mean, she lived with her. Like, Kaylee lived in the house with him, and I get her mom was working all the time, but, like, you would notice if the kid's not there. So it ultimately, of course, culminated with her mother finding out that Kaylee was gone. They called 911. She led him on the wild goose chase, got arrested, went to jail, And it shows jail security photo or video of her in a private area. It looks like an office of some sort, or maybe like a nurse's area or something, where she is sitting in a waiting chair, and there's a TV in the corner that she is watching when they come on TV talking about a bag of tiny bones. She said she absolutely lost it and said up until that moment, she believed her father that Kaylee was still alive, which is just a whole level of delusion that I can't even fathom. So Casey ultimately ends up with, she has her defense team already, but they had to hire in another attorney that was death certified since this was a death penalty case. We went over this with the George Wagner trial as well. And this is where Jose Baez came in. Head over to part 3. We're going to finish up the timeline of stuff, and then we'll go back to the SA accusations. Casey Anthony documentary, episode 2, part 3. All right, so we left off when Jose Baez came on board, and I don't remember if he was a famous attorney before this, or if I know of him because of this case, because we heard his name constantly. Now, during the trial and before the trial, they did offer Casey a plea deal. They offered her, I think, 20 years, but she had to admit responsibility and responsibility and guilt. She had to admit responsibility and guilt over the death of her daughter. Casey said she, quote, laughed him out of the room when he came in there to bring that up. So the prosecution laid out their case, brought up some other things, and during the pretrial stuff, Casey had been evaluated by psychologists and psychiatrists and stuff to see if she was mentally ill, whatever. They tested her for like signs of being psychotic, apparently. But ultimately, she was found to have no mental disorders, no mental illness, no nothing, which I find pretty hard to believe that she didn't test positive for narcissism, but here we are. Aftermath of popcorn, as I'm always picking kernels out of my teeth. It's so gross. So ultimately, the defense ends up standing up in court, and he didn't want to, that Jose Baez didn't want to prep Casey for anything. He wanted her raw and authentic reactions to things. So he stands up in court and, like, in opening statements, blurts out that, like, she's been sexually abused her whole life with her entire fucking family in the courtroom. Her attorney threw her dad and brother under the bus for sexually abusing her. So I can only imagine how happy the Anthonys were about that. He also claims that Kaylee drowned in the pool, that her dad basically told her, imagine what your mom's going to say, you know, that kind of shit, that she knew about it, but was too afraid of her father to speak up, and that she truly believed what George told her, that her daughter was alive. Now, the investigator came on and said that he is who originally fed her the idea when they did the interview at Universal about, well, did she drown? You know, that sort of thing. You've seen that before where investigators kind of feed them things. It's kind of towing a line sometimes, because when they do that is sometimes when they get accused of pulling out a false confession out of people. The attorney says that, or I'm sorry, Casey says that her mother is who first floated the idea to the attorney, and that's what they went along with. And when Casey is asked, why did you let him stand up in court and lie? She basically said, well, you have to tell the jury something. You can't tell them, well, she doesn't know. Head to the next part. Casey Anthony documentary, episode 2, part 4. So I'm going to back up a little bit to towards the beginning of the episode. They kind of broke in at one part and went into explicit detail. I mean, not like explicit, but like they went into some real specific details about what happened to Casey as far as the SA from her dad and brother. There was a court document shown that was from the psychiatrist that was shown on TV that basically said, or it was an interview or something, that was asking, what did they make you do? Was it, you know, this region, like that region? And she said all of it. So again, like I said, day one, a couple days ago, I am not here to determine whether that is true or not. We will never know if that is true. At best, that is a he said, she said. But I can't say that I am inclined to jump on board with Casey's story just because, not because I don't think it happened, because I think her dad is a total creeper, but just because she is such a pathological liar, and it is excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse, and she never takes any responsibility for anything. Everything that has ever happened to her, from her, or whatever has been a result of somebody else doing something to her. Now, in that vein, this entire series is fucking infuriating in the fact that this is not Casey talking about what happened. She is in a house with her defense team that she says is her only family now because they helped her get on her feet after her trial. Bitch, why do you think that is? You shit all over your family publicly to the point that your father was the first witness for the prosecution against you. Why would they help you? And I was watching another TikTok earlier that basically said that, and that's exactly what I was thinking. And I was like, dude, yes, thank you. Never mind the fact that her mom was on her side the whole time, even going so far as to like lying on the stand. Her mom lied and said that she looked up the chloroform, that Casey's car didn't really smell like death. She made that up. Like, that's perjury. Her mom could have gone to prison too. So don't give me this shit that your family didn't support you. They supported you until you threw them hard under the bus. Go to the next part. Casey Anthony documentary, episode 2, part 5, final part. I'm probably leaving out some other stupid stuff. At one point, there was like one of her friends from school, and then her friend from prison that she called Cookie for some reason. She was showing the letters that Casey had wrote to her while they were in jail. She said that Casey said that she was in the Orange County Jail for 3 years. She drove and parked in the parking lot of the courthouse and was talking about how traumatizing that was and all of that, which, okay, yeah, I'm sure it was. But, so again, this was another hour and 15 minutes of the, oh my gosh, my life is so hard. Look at all this trauma that has happened to me. I miss my daughter, blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, found out at the beginning of this episode that this was filmed in May of this year because they started off with her sitting alone on the beach, reflecting because it's the day after Mother's Day. Now, that being said, I don't doubt that at some part of her narcissistic little brain, Mother's Day is hard for her because her daughter, that would be 17 years old now, is dead. But you kind of forfeit the right to be upset about that when you caused it. I mean, just my opinion, but I'm right. So, because I chose not to go into great detail about the things that would happen to Casey, I would say you could use your imagination, but please don't. Just know that it's not for me to decide whether that happened or not. And really, between her and her dad both being so narcissistic and pathological liars, I don't think we'll ever know if that was true. For what it's worth, her family did not submit comments for this, even though they were asked. And I'm sure they're fucking furious. So like I said, at this point, I'm sure Casey truly believes her story. I think she has told herself these lies for so long that she truly believes that that's the truth. And that's partially, her narcissistic behavior, but realistically, that's just human behavior in general. Because, I mean, in other contexts, how many times do we lie to ourselves about things and ultimately believe they're true? Look at how many bad relationships we keep going back to because we tell ourselves that person will change or things will be different and stuff like that. And that's not even relating to any kind of abusive behaviors where they have psychological holds on you. This is just, everyday normal people. We all lie to ourselves about all kinds of shit. And we truly believe it. Now, if you are lying to yourself about the murder that you caused of your 2-year-old, please leave and go turn yourself in. Thanks. So anyway, that is the basic gist of episode 2. Whole lot of woe is me. Not enough truth. So we will be back on Friday for episode 3. Leave your comments, questions down below. Love you.